Follow me!
Hey everybody, welcome to the Don't Starve Imperialism tier list. There are many military groups and factions present in the Don't Starve cinematic universe, but not all of them can be befriended by the player. This video hopes to categorize them into which one is the most powerful, and also note some others that can be directly utilized by the player. Keep in mind, this video isn't stating you should completely ignore all but one group of creatures, as most playthroughs that have great success often utilize most factions in the world. Oh, one more thing, I also won't be listing off individual creature faction types as that own individual creature, as there's far too many of them. For instance, pigmen, wild boars, and civilized pigs may all function somewhat differently, but they're all still pigs. And starting off with pigs, we're going to put them straight towards C tier. Pigmen aren't really super useful in a fight. I mean, there are pushes you can make with them, but for the most part, there's a lot of different creatures that are far stronger that you can actually work with. And pigmen are more or less just used to make football helmets. And in the Hamlet DLC equivalent of trying to pay security guards to help you go and fight, that same equivalent could be pushed for paying higher prices for a better guard. Which, I mean, is still decent, but I wouldn't say that it's the best. Maybe the best in Hamlet, but not the best overall. C tier. Next up, Dragoons, straight to F tier. Not only can they not be befriended by the player, so they're already a pain in the ass to use, they get decimated by anything AoE, and anything not AoE, they'll likely incinerate after they kill it. There's effectively no good reason to keep them around, aside for farming hearts.
My heart.
Great job, nobody cares.
F tier. Alright, bees, A tier. Carrying around a whole pocket full of bees against anything that can't AoE is almost a guaranteed dub. Much like how I've done with Claws and Crab King, which is the only way to beat Crab King effectively in both their respective guides, bees are one of the most powerful and effective methods of getting rid of non-AoE bosses in the game. Also, bee boxes are incredibly useful for both recipes like honey ham and vegan characters such as Work. Bees are an A tier faction, but I could easily see someone putting them in S. Now this might actually surprise some people, but ghosts are actually neutral towards Windy, so they can sort of be labeled as a faction as long as they're playing as Windy. Where do they belong on the tier list? Straight to F tier. I'll go ahead and do both Tallbirds and Tentacles next, because they both have about the same level of power. Both are capable of beating Bee Queen and Dragonfly with some preparation. The difference being, Tentacles require you to place thicker bottom, and Tallbirds require you to wait a full 14 fucking days to use. They're both powerful enough to be considered B-tier factions, but they're both costly enough to be considered situational. Rock Lobsters, S tier. With the exception of Tamed Ancient Fuel Weaver, Rock Lobsters are the strongest befriendable creatures in the game. Rock Lobsters can defeat a majority of the boss roster in Don't Starve, with the exception of only a few in-game bosses, and with incredibly low numbers and costs. Their only issue is that in Don't Starve Together, it's impossible to get them on the surface. But by all means, have fun using them to deal with Guardian without even raising a finger. Broken Clockworks. Okay, anything a broken Clockwork can do, a Rock Lobster can do better. That's not to suggest that Clockworks have no use to you if you find them first. However, Clockworks and DST share the Rock Lobster's handicap of not being able to go to service, meaning their only saving grace is their Bishop's ranged attack, which is really good for certain fights, mind you, but unfortunately that's also counteracted by the fact that half the time they don't even listen to you.
Now you will get yourself kicked, Tyler! God damn it!
D tier. Beefalos, the passive Mega Chads. Now the thing about Beefalos is they can fight. They can actually fight really well, being a really high health minion. The problem is they can't really be lured anywhere effectively, and they take a while to make a big enough horde for usage. However, I would always recommend knowing of at least one herd, as not only are they decent defenders, but they also work well as a combat mount. B tier. Alright, Catcoons.
I'm cats.
Catcoons really aren't that great. They're weaker than a pigman, their homes can't be replicated, tame Catcoons will fight with wild Catcoons, and their loyalty timer is pretty inconsistent. One positive is that you can feed them pretty much anything to tame them, and it guarantees they'll give at least one item in return. Other than that, I wouldn't really test my luck with the Catcoon trading system. D tier. Pogs are just decently good to have around. They're slightly weaker than a Pigmen, but they have a really easy befriend requirement, and with about 10 of them, you can easily rush Queen Whammon. I'll just go ahead and do the rest of Hamlet's factions now, since none of them are really better than the Pog. Mants require you to wear a specific suit of armor to be buddies with them, and don't deal as much DPS as Pogs. Elder Mandrakes do the DPS, but they literally require you to force an apocalypse to be buddies with. And Piranha Plants can't even be befriended. They're only neutral towards Wormwood if he doesn't have meat.
Hello, Mr. Plant.
Nikki, don't touch that! It's dangerous!
Yeah, right.
Pog, C tier, Mant, D tier, Elder Mandrake, and Piranha Plant, F tier. Okay, so controversial opinion on my previous controversial Wilbur opinion, Primeapes are S tier. They are, with the exception of spiders, the most resource-efficient minion in the game, requiring only a single Primeape to be tamed, and a single Primeape den provides up to 4 Primeapes. It's actually just a better idea to place Primeape dens where a boss spawns, tame one, and have them rush it.
What?
Lastly, they're the only player faction in the game that can pick harvest items such as twigs and grass, and in turn give them to the player. The most efficient group overall easily deserves S tier. Merms and Bunnymen, the 2 vegan factions.
Actually, you're not really vegan. You are someone who simply eats.
Bunnymen are really only good for dealing with specific situations like killing Bee Queen or using for mob farms, and they're less helpful overall. Merms are a bit better for the following reasons. They don't attack the player if they have meat, their king allows a trade for vegetables, their homes are much easier to build, and both the common Merm and the guard variants are superior to Bunnymen. The only thing Bunnymen really have on Merms is that Merms require a Warpman to be allied. Merms, A tier, Bunnymen, C tier. Lure Plants. Lure Plants are less of fighters at all, as I've proven numerous times, and more so just useful because of what they can offer. They're good for farms, being arguably one of the best farms, and always something you should hang on to because of all the helpful recipes you can make with them. James Bucket actually made a video about Lure Plants
Make
recently.
sure to also check out Jazzy's video, who spent more effort than mine.
Jazzy here with another Don't Starve Together guide. And today,
We're gonna be talking about...
Whew, there's 3 levels there, damn.
Lure Plants, just for how much they offer, is B tier. Spiders. I mean, just a month ago, I would say that spiders were still on the same level as pigs, but as Weber's rework would have it, spiders have shot straight to S tier. They have no collecting ability, which still puts them under Primeapes, but they make up for it in their overwhelming military force and, as of now, free Obamacare via nerf spiders, which not only heal other spiders, but Weber as well, making them one of the very few creatures that you would take to a late game fight. Orange did a really good video on fighting claws with them.
Whack staff, don't starve. And he just died.
But even past that, with ranged spiders like the Spitter and Warrior, not even Bee Queen or Dragonfly can beat a nice composition of spiders, so long as that composition has nurses.
I feel like I'm never gonna be happy again!
The Kaisar has marked you for death.
I hate to generalize a decent amount of these creatures by just saying they're like Pigmen, but Ballfin are literally just Pigmen that can swim. They even have the anti-Weber racism down to a T. C tier. Now, Jojos are kind of in the same boat as Lure Plants, as they provide virtually no defense and instead just provide goodies in the form of caring for them, much like Beefalo too. They lay eggs, they have feathers, they drop meat, and they're the main religion of a decent portion of the Don't Starve cinematic universe. B tier. And lastly, we have Hounds, which aren't even really a player faction, but for when things get a bit rough. Some hounds in a wave can actually be tamed with a whistle. The problem is this whistle is a Year of the Varg only item, making it impossible to get without manipulating events. And yeah, using hounds to destroy other hounds isn't too bad of a way to get rid of them, but they can't really be used for anything else. F tier. But I think that'll about wrap it up for this tier list. Did yours rank up with mine? Make sure to let me know in the comments down below.
Oh, don't waste your energy. You're going to be dead in a matter of minutes. Pick him up.
What do you want from me?